it's like we made it to Mars, and everyone's going like, "Nah, that's not Jupiter, is it?" And we're like,
But dude, look around.
yeah, we're on Mars. Yeah, and that feels a bit weird. On the other hand, that's how technology works. I think we had this same feeling with the cloud. We're like, wait, is this everything? And then you're like, okay, come on, man, this is massive.
Hey there, welcome to Betatalks, the podcast. I am Rick.
And I am Oscar.
And I am Jelle.
Different format today. We had Jelle in the studio and we decided to just do another episode, so why not? Suggestion is, let's chat about some topics we find interesting. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Welcome.
So we actually did prepare a list of topics that we wanted to discuss, right? And there's so much happening that it's almost impossible to come up with a deterministic list, but let's try. I think, Oscar, you had the first one on the list.
It's getting close to November. And what does that mean? New.NET version these days.
Yep.
Yet again. I feel like this was a bigger thing in the beginning. And now we're yearly just bumping. It's like, oh yeah, .NET 10 and C#, let me calculate, 14.
Mm-hmm.
But I checked it out, and there's a .NET Conf from 11 to 13 November. That means in that week they release, and I saw preview 7 coming out in August. So yet another version.
Did you play with it already?
No.
Have you looked at it?
Like that, but that's the. I looked at the features. I saw some C# features. Some of them were interesting. Couldn't see the use directly. But looks like it's getting a bit more thin there. But you see a lot of work in, for instance, Blazor and things like that, because that's part of the framework.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know the old days, right? Then we were doing viewing parties for the release.
Yeah, but then we also had like these real big transitions to do or migrations to do from updating .NET versions.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot less work nowadays, or at least it feels like it, right?
Well, look, that's the nice thing. The last migration was just bumping the numbers, right?
Yep.
I almost forgot I did it already.
Yeah.
So no, there's no game changers anymore in unless you're using some kind, like if you're in Blazor or Aspire or Maui or something, then you're getting something. You might get something big.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not expecting anything big anymore. I'm like, it's dare I say it? It feels mature.
Yeah, and then if you look at C#, I mean, most of the things that we see there is syntactic sugar, right?
Yeah, and it's balancing out features that were introduced and were groundbreaking and are kind of normal, and you almost expect somewhere else now as well in the same kind of syntax.
Mm-hmm.
Those are getting added. So one of them I really remembered, like, oh, but that's funky, is the no conditional assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So we know the no conditioner, like question mark dot and then the property, but now you can do a question mark dot the property and you can assign it something, and if the thing is null, it won't. And if it is there, it will assign property, and it's so funny to see, because you know the syntax, it's always there,
and so you understand what's happening.
Yeah, and therefore, like, it is like amazing work that the team is doing this on a language that is now 26 years old, or and adding this and doing this again and again, and well, we get treated with the yearly Bart de Smet and keynote for Techorama, for instance. Still want to call out, like, that's amazing work, because I know some of these features in a year, if you're somewhere where they are somehow running, I don't know, .NET 6 or whatever, or an old compiler in this case, you will type in, like, why doesn't this work? This always worked. No, It didn't. And there's so many features, I think, that we assume were always there.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean, but the syntactic. This should have worked a long time ago. Not being ungrateful here. That feeling where you're like, okay, this makes sense. This feels like a language.
You never knew you missed it.
Yeah. It's like oh yeah, I didn't know this word existed, but I needed it. Yeah,
Yeah.
And you'll start using it. But that the proportion of that kind of change, where the language gets more writable, more speakable, that I think proportionally that's increasing, and I think you can see that as a good sign for where C# at, right?
But also like it means that it's a very mature language indeed. There are no like we need to really change this and do breaking changes. We don't see them.
No, I do think there was a lot when we moved over from .NET Framework to .NET.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
but also you think
no, but also I think that was the last.
They brought the language.
Major. Yeah, they brought the language
that was already amazing.
I mean, and everything, of course, was based on .NET Standard, which helps a lot, which has helped a lot in the past as well. But that was probably the last. No, that's not true. There were some groundbreaking changes after that as well.
I think like we went to .NET, like not .NET Core, but .NET. Like in those, you saw the bigger leaps, and you saw some groundwork and introductions for concepts that are now rolling out all over the place. And for me, the language features and stuff, things like primary constructors, everything is just cleaning up. It's just getting simpler, and you get into flame wars and like, are we using now? Are we putting them to fields anyway, or leaving as is? Like there are a lot of things that will change over time, but at some point it's like you're used to it, and it's weird to see an old part of your code base that didn't get an upgrade or whatever.
No, I've summarized the last few upgrades as just a continuing war on accolades, where if we can remove an accolade, we're happy. And I agree. I'm all for less, space, which is mostly just for a developer. That's great. Like, okay, it looks better to me, or not, and then you kind of really interesting discussions.
Less noise, right?
I want the accolades there.
You want accolades?
Anyway, I just checked.
For the namespace, really?
No, the namespace. No, not for the namespace, not for the using. No, that's completely true.
Yeah. For the using, sometimes I want them in control flow.
Yeah, but now you have the option to want them instead of that you must.
Yeah. Because but an if statement to me always has accolades, because even if it's a one-liner, if it's going to be multiple lines, somebody will eventually.
I moved from that opinion.
You did?
Yeah, I'm all for early returns and clean and.
I'm for early returns as well, but if the if statement, even if it has just a one-liner, for me, it's still going to have accolades.
Yeah. Oh.
And are they going to be on new lines, or is the accolade at the end of the if statement? So is it JavaScript accolades at the end of the...
Depends on what I'm writing, but in C# they're on a new line. But like, those tells are like everlasting discussion, right? In Teams, it's fine.
That they really shouldn't be, though.
No,
which is why you need to standardize this stuff. But
I just checked, by the way. Development started in the late 90s. Introduction was actually 2003, but it was February, so it was in August 2000.
Because we went from
CLI
a Java version of .NET to Cool, which was the C object-oriented language, to actually C#, right? I thought it was earlier.
I'm nodding along like I was there, but
so officially, and I mean this is on Wikipedia, so that's nothing.
Then it's true. It's true,
right? February 13th, 2002.
Okay,
and then so it I think the first beta came out in 2000. But at least February 2002, so that's 23 years ago now.
Is there anything you expected there to be, Oscar, that's not there?
Well, honestly, no. But that's also because I'm following the discussion, and some things are still there on the list, and they're like holy grail kind of things.
You set your expectations accordingly.
Yeah, no, but like it seems, if you look at the list, it seems a bit slimmer than ever. On the other hand, like they're.
It is also because they've separated out the .NET Aspire and the Maui stuff.
Those are different lists, so that's also helping. But if you look at the actual, not so much a framework, but like C#, what I'm happy about is that newer concepts are getting also nicer to read. For instance, they just added a lot of implicit conversions for a span of T, for instance. If you use that. And that just works. It's much more readable than you're just doing conversions and so I can imagine those things as like, oh yeah, whatever feature to read or to use. But for a team to actually do that, it's like, oh, this was a lot of digging and a lot of decision making to make this compatible with everything that was typed before.
Yeah.
I remember the whole discussion. It was, I think, one of the first times I really started thinking about language. It's like they introduced the name of, and you can bake that in as a keyword, like or as a syntactic thing. If they would bake it in as a keyword, if anyone ever would do a lowercase name of function ever in a code base, it would break. They decided to do it differently then. But now, if you name a method in your class name of lowercase, it will override the other one. So that's what at that moment, it's like, oh, this is interesting. So I was starting to follow those language discussions, and I think this is such a cool way if you can, really hard topic, but cool how those guys are having those discussions and making decisions that's on such a higher level than most of us are doing in software.
This is your implicit application letter
no,
to be part of the team.
I'm not smart enough.
Other question. What's the feature, either language or framework, that has made that's most important to you over the last couple of years, or that has made the biggest impact, or that you think, finally we got that one?
The record, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the easy answer, but I both in explaining it to others and in we're separating stuff into classes and records that we weren't separating before, and they're clearly different concepts. I think that's the one. Even if I don't always use it, it is the most impactful just because you have to think about it whenever you write a class now. You're like, is this a class? That's not something I used to do. So I think that's the biggest one for me.
Yeah, well, and in the end, it's like, is there ever a class these days? Like, or should we now ask someone of the F# community to tell us? Like, yeah, duh. Just use F# if you want this. But like, we tend to go much more functional, and it's so much better code in the end, quality-wise, because like knowing that something is immutable, nothing of your references will ever just change value. I love records. I love tuples. It felt when we made classes in the old days like an investment. We need a new file. We need to put a class in the file. It's a lot of brackets and curlies, and it's like, okay, like I'll use that type for this as well. Or you saw a lot of mess, and now it's like you see an inline, like in class defined record just for that thing. Yesterday, for the first time, one of our juniors wrote some code and was reviewing. It's like, what? I couldn't read. It's like, what is this? It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about it. File scoped. He did a file scoped record on the top of the file, like it's not exposed anywhere, and made complete sense for the case. Like, and you could do that same thing like in 10 different ways. I was like, I've never ever used that.
And that your junior was just having a spark of inspiration, or they were a coding co-pilot assistant.
I don't know. No, I think it's just this is one of those. Is like, oh, something new came out. I'll bite through every documentation I can find, and then feels like he needs to. Yeah. Okay, there's a concept for this. I'm gonna introduce it. So that's super cool because you will learn a lot.
Small applause there. Well done.
And all your old guys was like, okay, act normal, please. This is unreadable. We've never seen this before. And you get a discussion, and everyone learned something, right? So I love those. So, but you know, with the increase of generated code, the readability of code becomes more and more important. And I see that divide now, where people like, you just named it. I've never seen this before, so it's not readable. And you have the other camp that's like, this is how I would like to read this. The C#14 or 13 or whatever. It does something that's how I would want it to be written down for me to be readable. I couldn't do it before. I can do it now. Let's write it a new way. That discussion is so interesting, where
I tend to fall in the camp. I've never seen this before. I don't want it. And then later I go like, oh no, that makes me such a boomer.
And then, I thought you were going to say, and then later on you think, okay, so maybe it might be interesting. And then you go backtrack all your old code and rewrite it to be the new way if possible.
Well, I haven't never done that. So yeah, no, I do that where I'm like, okay, I'll just try to rewrite some stuff. And then in the end, you're like, okay, I can automate this. What am I doing? Yeah.
Well, that is actually
Copilot.
Talking about indeed that in generated code. Like now I'm in a code base. Like, okay, we're moving to this, and I open files. Like, oh, this one is still old school, because you're not gonna sit down and do everything just because it has no value. So be pragmatic. But now it's like, okay, change it. It's like I can ask the Copilot to change that. It's good at that. It won't make a mistake. If you have any unit tests, they will be green. If not, maybe you should check it.
Are you making a little a bridge there with unit testing?
I heard a bridge towards
there is
AI.
a topic on this list, right? Because unit testing in .NET.
Yeah.
What changed there, Jelle?
A lot. Wow. Well, but I think
nothing yet.
Nothing. Unit testing is same old. No, there's a new. Well, is it new? The TUnit.
It's getting a lot of traction.
It was new
now.
for me.
Yeah. The TUnit. So we have in .NET you have the NUnit, and then we got the xUnit, and now we have TUnit. Getting traction is, I think, the fair way to say it. Where it's not xUnit. It might not even get to xUnit, but it's new frame. So have either of you played around with it?
No.
Are you still writing your unit tests manually?
No, I did hear about it. I haven't played around with it yet.
No, I read a small post about it, and it's like, okay, something new. And then for me, it's like, but what does it add? And it's really weird because normally, like, I'm super hyped up about new frameworks or whatever because they're always like better in performance or new ways to type some. It's like, okay, but these concepts are pretty settled. You have again a letter and unit behind it. Yeah, it's like, is this yet another? But I read something about order, parallel, like those are interesting. If because it's always like, we were always running xUnit, and at some point it's like, oh, we need NUnit here because we're running our playwright in there because we need order and whatever, some things that weren't completely possible in xUnit. So I can imagine it fills yet another gap between those two.
I'm not even sure it does. I think if you're I feel like if you have a large, let's say, xUnit stack, and it's working, there's really no need to jump across to TUnit. But I think the traction it's getting is now the TUnit. It's based on everything done by NUnit and xUnit, but optimized from the ground up for the new testing framework. For the Microsoft testing framework. So I think,
because like the MS Test got swapped on it, right?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Yeah. So that's where they're starting there. So it's, you get the same old story. It's optimized for the new cases. It's flexible, parallel testing, AOT, everything there. I think from what. Yeah, but if you squint a bit, it's just xUnit.
I'm also thinking
squint a bit.
If we're
just squint. I have glasses. I tend to squint.
but if you, how big how big does your test code base need to be that AOT is actually helping you a lot? You think?
I don't tend to visit a lot of code bases where
people actually test. No,
that's fair. Unfortunately, but we had this discussion with colleagues, and I believe Bram Albers, he was on the show as well previously. He said the test pyramid is dead. I don't think anything is ever truly dead in software. It will zombie on, but unit tests are less important now than they were years previously. So while I feel like TUnit, that's it, especially if it matures, it's slightly more. It will be the best of the three. The investment needed, even if you can just generate, replace xUnit with TUnit, I'm not sure whether all the hassle of having to retest and having tests fail, it needs to be really worth it. So if I've just started a new solution, I'm using TUnit. I'm very happy. It works. I see no need to do something else. But if I have an existing code base, I'm not swapping yet. And I think TUnit needs to have a really big new feature, but I have no idea what would be coming. That's not available in xUnit or NUnit. That's worth the hassle.
Mm-hmm.
So TUnit is not maintained by one of the big companies, is it?
No, it's not. Clearly not. No, I mean, it's unfair to say it's a single guy, because there's got to be multiple people working there. But this is clearly just a small player. But it works because it's xUnit and NUnit, they've shown the way, and it's not that hard to maintain a testing framework. Apparently, I mean, surely there's a lot of people doing a lot of work.
Spending a lot of time on this and passion.
Thank you, but this was not possible before to have just one person or a small group of people maintaining an entire testing framework in this way. No, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe we'll also get surprised in I don't know, maybe newer reporting and integration with your tooling, because I must say with the transfer of those frameworks, sometimes you just didn't update and nothing tested in your pipeline anymore,
and sometimes it really doesn't.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe it's actually because the lack of legacy there that will move on for longer. So I would like doing something new. Why not experiment?
I think it has potential. I think there's the future readiness of TUnit is by far its biggest advantage.
So if you're starting anything new, I would recommend investigate at least, because up until now it looks like it's doing at least what the rest does.
Correct.
So why not?
Yeah, so just to make sure that we are correct on this, there's currently 49 contributors on the project.
Good.
Single guy.
The first...
there's a lead guy.
Yeah.
Maybe when I look last...
It's still under his
GitHub.
Is
nothing, right?
It's still under his GitHub. So that's Tom Hurst.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh, maybe we can get him on the show once.
That would be good. That would be cool. The first commit was January 24.
Okay, so it is pretty new.
It is pretty new. And if you go to the GitHub and you look at the used by, that's actually 478, which means already there's quite a few packages and repos depending on this one.
Okay.
6 packages and 479 repositories currently open, available, and using this.
It makes sense, though. I mean, if you're happy with your xUnit, you'll be happy with your TUnit. I think that's...
Put that on a t-shirt.
I'm not allowed to, I guess.
Know it. Figure it out. I think, and it's cool that I hear that you for newer things will just pick it up.
I'm using it right now, and I'm happy.
But that's good.
Cool.
Like no news is sometimes also good, right?
Fair enough.
Stability.
Yeah. If
boring is good.
If I launch my software and half a year later someone says I'm using it, I'm happy. Yeah. I think I did a good job.
You did. So talking about changes, one of the topics that I wanted to bring in was logic apps.
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is, there's of course always these periods of time in which a specific service or product gets a lot of love, and there's a lot of new features coming out, and actually Logic Apps was one of them over the past couple of weeks. So
it's still called that? That's a record.
I'm choosing to skip.
Nick is really anxious, like, maybe they changed the name.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Nope.
I'm not saying anything about any internal knowledge I might have.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that they added was we now have an enhanced data mapper. There are some new connectors that have been built there. There's the possibility of hybrid deployment and business process tracking. But what I actually wanted to talk about with you guys is the fact there's now organizational templates. And organizational templates, according to the marketing, means that it now empowers teams to share and reuse automation patterns within their own organization, helping standardize integration practices at scale. Now, I think this is something that we've wanted for Logic Apps for quite a long time, and apparently it's there. So Does this, in your opinion, set logic apps up to be more accepted within bigger companies?
I think you phrase it like this is something we were waiting for a long time, and
We the market.
Yeah, but which share of the market? Like it's because a logic app it's a logic app, right? So you have you have us that are using it when it's useful, and you have people that are using it because functions is too codey.
But wouldn't that be Power Apps? Because that's not in the Azure environment, right?
That's true. That's true.
And that's where I struggle. Like on one hand, it's good because the logic app is actually, let's say it's a Power. It's called Power Apps. Power Automate.
Power Automate.
Yeah, but like you can do that for yourself. But it's like if your account closes,
with the names again.
That thing doesn't
still called that.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah, but that thing will run as you, so that's good in your. It's like your Excel sheet that you send to your colleague. Like this is handy. If that grows out to be business critical, like the leap towards a logic or what's it called, logic app. No, sorry, the leap is not that big. It's kind of the same, and it's nice if you can do versioning and can share. And
even the designer's the same, right?
So there's definitely a scenario there. But I always have a hard time grasping it. The moment you get into compliance, into versioning, into having this reviewed, making this part of your real organization, people that do that, most of them, they can rewrite some code.
Yep.
Like, why would you do this to yourself?
Because if it does the job, then it's quicker and it's probably
but never on scale and execution.
maintained.
What I've seen so far. Like,
what do you mean?
I've seen the simple, like, drag a few lines, we can do a conversion, or throw a CSV there or whatever. Like in the actual throw some data to that one, like I've never seen this executing much faster than Azure function of 8 lines of code.
No, true.
So I'm always struggling. I've never come across a person that's like, I do this all the time and I cannot write code.
I even come across companies that do so.
Huh?
That use Power Apps logic apps for the majority of their automation.
But that's really cool.
But they'll be happy with this feature because but I agree with Oscar. Why are they not using
that's my world, right? Like everyone in their bubble
code.
But like I've always seen it's like, on paper this makes sense, but it doesn't. But like if you see those customers, then it's awesome. Then it's awesome that this still matures.
Market can't be wrong. If they're using it, then this will be a good feature for them. Yeah. I don't think it will pull any Oscars or Jelles towards the logic apps if they were not using it. If they prefer,
I think if you were in code and you had everything controlled and you're in your Git and whatever, I think this will never pull you there because it's less work. Because I don't believe it's much less work.
And what about?
I like the connectors and stuff, and some of the connectors logic apps have. Why doesn't function have them?
That's actually that's a good question, because I know for a fact that I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, there was talks of all of the logic apps connectors becoming available in general in Azure.
Yeah,
for instance,
for anything
to use. It's been awfully quiet around that piece of information for like a couple of years now. So I'm not really sure if that's still something they're working on, or if they think, well, let's just keep it as is. Or maybe those people that need those connectors actually built them as custom connectors within Azure Functions.
Yeah, maybe they did some market research. It's like, okay, but like it's really cool, but like no one will actually pick it up because this is solved in those places. Yeah. But I love that integration market basically that you have there. Like it's everything's there.
Yeah, it's a tremendous amount of connectors that are available there now.
But cool to see that it's maturing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think we also heard something about functions.
What we talked about before, right? I have an environment. Everything async background that doesn't do a direct user thing goes to functions, service bus. So like we orchestrate that. But we moved in our company. We moved heavily to containers, and there was a kind of supported way to run a function in a container. And then there was a more supported way, and then there was an official way. Up until now, they kind of sucked. because
what sucked about them for you?
You needed up to recently you needed to deploy basically 2 Azure resources, because one was a kind of a function and the other one was the actual container apps, for instance. Or you did the unsupported way, which was just self-sustaining. You need to do the scale and whatever. Like, the nice thing of the function, you throw it there and it scales up when you need it, because it's actually looking at the triggers to see where it needs to scale for.
Yeah.
We found out we had a whole list of checks to do. Like, if this is mature here, then we'll jump over, because we're using a lot of premium because of long run times and using huge orchestrations in durable. I'm spending like a quarter of the budget on functions premium because of the one feature is it runs longer than 10 minutes, and we can have the hosting plans, of course, but a bit the spiky scale out, and it's like in containers this would work better. The only thing, the orchestrations towards storage account, didn't work like that.
Yeah.
So you needed a SQL Server for that, which was the only supported way, I think, at some point. Was a bit weird, but we're getting there, and we're getting more and more supported scenarios. It looks more complete. We had a couple of updates this year, and what I found out, and I didn't find it, Erwin, my colleague, found it. Like, did you see this? They created the resource in Azure. It's called Durable Task Scheduler. You can create a Durable Task Scheduler, and at this moment there's only one thing. It's a paid tier, and it's, I think, $400 a month, so it's pretty heavy. But it actually does the durable orchestrations for you. So your function will connect to it instead of doing it internally on storage or whatever, and sending that on message queues, which are not super reliable. It will actually talk to that thing with gRPC, and that will handle the state. And it's super optimized for the messaging, the state of the orchestrations, has a database in. So it's really a real new magic supporting resource in Azure. And you don't see that many of those. Most of the features are on themselves, right? Like it's a piece of storage. You write to it from the outside. And this is a scheduler, basically, and the actual functionality is in your function. And it doesn't care where you run it. So you can offload that whole scheduling part. So I was triggered. This is definitely something we're going to experiment with to see if our scenarios are now basically solved.
This is a lot of work to change from your scenario A to B?
I don't think so. It's mostly like deployments. Like it's wrapping the thing in containers, not too bad. Deploying it slightly differently. Well, one bicep to cover them all. The only thing, there's probably like a connection string or some trust towards that scheduler, and we need to deploy a scheduler. Need to find out how you work with it, because the task hubs are hosted inside the scheduler. Then I don't know what the limits are. There's a consumption plan that's grayed out at the moment, so it's kind of new. And I didn't see it coming. But it will probably unlock something for us. What I do find is interesting is that this whole container version of functions was also made to be able to host it in different clouds, because one of the things, like serverless, you have a vendor lock-in. But now if you need a specific Azure resource that does this, also feels weird.
The question is, can you then still run your functions anywhere and just connect them to the scheduler?
Well, that's then the question. But like, well, okay, but then you still have the cloud dependency of that scheduler. I don't know. And maybe the scheduler itself will also be released as a container package or whatever. So that would be nice. They have for local, they have a emulator for it. So comparing to some other services where the emulator was an afterthought.
Or maybe even a couple of years afterthought.
It's not even a thought, but a demand by the audience. This looks like it starts with an emulator, so you can experiment with the scheduler and therefore the way this works. And if you really want, you could always host the emulator somewhere in your Amazon.
But mostly we're talking about a cost saving, right? That's what we're.
Yeah, but like it is pretty feisty upfront $400 a month for.
No. I just looked it up.
It's not anymore.
Okay, so it gives you a single tenant with dedicated resources, up to 2,000 work items dispatched per second, and 50 gigs of orchestration data storage.
Mm-hmm.
One capacity unit of a durable task scheduler is 600 and something euros.
Okay.
So it's
if you're running one consumption function, I wouldn't use this. Like that's adding on a lot. But if you're running multiple, and you're spending, I don't know, 6-7 Ks of functions a month because of this orchestration and this load, and you can pull that down because your containers are easier to run and also easier to run in multiple regions, for instance, then this might be a nice offloading of it. Yep. Because I always felt a bit weird replacing the state for this to SQL. It was felt like back in time. It's like, why would you do such a thing?
For God's sake, why?
Then Cosmos.
One final topic that we just had to at least mention, and I'm looking at you, Jelle.
Yeah, I see that.
So, what's up with GPT-5?
Have you used it?
Maybe.
I don't know.
No,
not directly.
So, I'll try to be a very positive and
is it sentient yet? Is it general AI? No. It's AGI?
No, I think if anything, it's less sentient than the previous versions. Now, I'll be the positive one, so you can start being more cynical. I'm glad that they're still updating, that they're increasing for that we keep getting new models. I think the unified feature for the average user, like it will find a specific type of model for you depending on your question. For the average user, that could be a plus. Mm-hmm. And I like their claims of enhanced performance and that it's it reduces hallucinations. I haven't dived into how they've reduced hallucinations because
more compute cycles.
Just having a backup LLM telling it no, shh. Yeah. Something like that. But I find it really hard to keep the positive vibe.
Is it faster or is it slower?
I have no numbers, so okay. I think it can be faster.
Okay. Yeah, because I can imagine if it's hallucinating less, then you just chain a couple of safeguards. But
what I've seen people online mention is that it took way longer to do stuff in GPT-5 than it did in 4.
Yeah,
at that point in time, at least.
And I think that's also because I'm not sure whether that's. For all those people, that's just the LLM where just the model where they're like, it's slower because there's a lot of packaging around this where it does a lot of stuff for you that typical users would like, typical model takers would love, but not everyone. And there's a lot of use cases where I'm like, you mentioned earlier that bring back GPT-4. That's saying something. We didn't have a bring back GPT-3 movement.
No. We actually, because it evolved so fast, we always had the feeling that the old model was fine, and then it got worse. But we just got used to better results.
Yeah.
But it's not happening now, apparently.
I do also have to say that there's a bit of a strange feeling around this as well, because we're talking about performance and we're talking about AI, but also if it adds value, it can be that even if you have to wait like 30 seconds or a minute, that still it would take you to do a multitude of that time to do this yourself. Mm-hmm. But now we say, well, but it's slow. One of the things that Copilot has is Researcher that actually goes out and pulls in tons of data and processes that, and based on that comes up with a. So now I have colleagues saying, that Researcher is fine, but it's slow. I had to wait 2 minutes for my complete overview of all programming
2 minutes
languages
for my
ever.
thesis.
Yeah, but if you look at what it's doing, then the amount of time you're waiting is not that important because it's doing a shitload of work for you.
No, but this is like the typical hype cycle, right? Where we've
but like as humans, how fast do you get used to something miraculous?
Right?
Yeah, apparently
Very fast.
instantly. No, so there's this feeling that this model, it from the start, it wasn't marketed as this is again a giant leap. This model was marketed as no. This model is just it's better, it's more performant, it's more secure, it's everything a little bit better, but it's mostly just a more complete product. That's what the marketing was.
While the other side, and that's not the marketing, but like the narrative of all those companies is like, yeah, maybe because they're too big to fail now. They pump so much money in there, so much promises. Like we're still getting like as if we are making giant leaps after this.
And then like, maybe it's also because
like, and that's not the original marketing, because indeed, if you read the release notes and stuff, it's saying what it is.
Yeah.
But like if you would only look at the posts of the highly visible CEOs and whatever, and like, okay, like this is gonna, you don't have a job anymore. Like this gonna change everything.
Yeah, but maybe it's also, and we've talked about this before, but maybe it's also that it does do better in specific scenarios, and people are very happy and proud that it does, but it's just not useful for, let's say, the common user of the system. So that they maybe even over-engineered or made something better than it had to be, or than somebody needed it to be. So we're not seeing the added value.
You ever did performance tuning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you spend your first hour, you cut 80% off. Everyone's like, wow. Then you spend the next week, cut 5% of the 80% you already did.
Yeah.
And you don't see the difference.
No, true.
Like, and your code got a lot more complicated. The question is,
and everybody said, "What the hell have you been doing?"
It's like that was done, right?
So where we are at is that the LLMs are starting to reach their maximum capacity, right? So they're amazing. This is like if you told me 5 years back that we would have this, I would be like, will we? I don't think so. And
it went fast,
it is, and it's become well. The models themselves have become very mature for 5 years, right? So that's interesting, but the expectations, that's going a completely different growth line. People are expecting a lot more from this technology
if you see
being developed
since the beginning. Like the investments that were going on, they were big, but the investments that are still going on now are much bigger than they were. The only thing is the effect of them will be a lot less.
So I'm only going to say one thing.
This will collapse. I don't know.
Is this a bubble, do you think?
No.
More.
Quantum? That's going to be the next game changer, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe not next. There might be a game, an inter-game changer, but yeah.
Okay. Is it 5 years away, like it was 5 years ago? No. But I think we made some steps there. Yeah. Just thinking about my encryption. So sad.
I think GPT-5 is. I think it's better than GPT-4. Not always, but that's true for many things. I mean, all these models are different, but only if you're really, really deep into them do those differences really matter all that much. It's more of a case of preference and connectability and what you need at the moment. Then that this microsecond is going to help the average person or the average company.
In the end, re-architecting this and evolutionizing this might not be like it's gonna do more. It's just gonna take less resources, for instance, which I hope will be the direction, because I think it's very useful. Maybe we should stop promising things that are not there. Make it a bit more.
It's like we made it to Mars and everyone's going like, that's not Jupiter, is it? And we're like,
but dude, look around.
Yeah, we're on Mars. Yeah, and that feels a bit weird. On the other hand, that's how technology works, I think. We had this same feeling with the cloud. We're like, wait, is this everything? And then you're like, okay, come on, man, this is massive.
So in the spirit of aging, I was at the time where there were no mobile phones, but I was also in the time where we had here in the Netherlands, it was called Kermit, like Kermit the Frog, and it was small phones that you could
Greenpoint.
Greenpoint. You could take them with you, but then you needed to go to one specific point, and there you had coverage.
Yeah, you're really exposing my age here now. I'm like, okay, sure.
No, but I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You needed to be near a post office then.
Yeah.
I had one.
PostNL. Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, it was called differently. PTT Post. Yeah, there we go. Okay, anyhow, I think that's all the time we have for now. Please let us know if you enjoyed this experimental format, because I think at least we had fun.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, we should do this more often.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So, Jelle, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Had a lot of fun.
Had a lot of fun.
And thank you for listening to Betatalks, the podcast. Betatalks is made possible by Betabit Managed Software Development.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.